Anyway, I'm just opening up to the issue of the impeachment so that we do not dwell on the wonderful space that Uncle Gerard is actually opened. As I'm going to Paranya impeachment, remember we discussed about 2017, what was surrounding Robert Mugabe at that moment, where he was incapacitated, but possibly people were taking advantage of him in terms of the G40 and the wife. Is it a deja vu, perhaps? What Comrade Geza actually spoke about is not a surprise to me. Maybe it has come as a surprise to other people. That's why perhaps there should be a debate in Zimbabwe in terms of, I think the debate was opened before. What should be the age limit of somebody running for the presidency? Should be it perhaps 70? It should be, because if there was a proposition to say there should be an age limit of somebody running for the presidency at 40, why should they be also minimum 40? Why shouldn't they be a cap in terms of age? Should a person go to 100? This is not to say that we are sidelining our senior citizens, but we need to understand that as we grow older, kana inini panapa pandiri panapa bhora ndairova chaizvo zvekurova chaizvo, but kwada kuti utenderese unozwa kuti musana wangu uyu hauchanyatsokubvuma zvandaisiita, asi mupfungwa umu ririmo bhora. Handitika, it's the same thing with the president. We should debate and probably propagate in the constitution what should be the age limit so that we don't have a president who starts getting taken advantage of the wife, people who are surrounding him, and then he abdicates his duties, and there we are. So this is a legacy which Robert Mugabe actually left, which Emerson Mnangagwa has taken over as well. And I think our discussion should also border on that idea of the capping of the age limit, of course, as well as the two-term limit, which must not be played around. And I think Geza's noise has also helped to quieten a little bit the 2030 bid. So the impeachment draft, I've read it through. It seems to be authentic by the way I look at it. And judging by the way the president has performed in public, even Warakashi tries to say he's being sarcastic and etc. I don't think so. It's a matter of applying lipstick to a frog. It's very clear that the president seems to be losing it a little bit. If not physically, then it should be mentally. And will it be successful? It depends on how he would appeal to people who he says are very loyal to him. Because in 2017, Mugabe thought that people were very loyal to him. At the end of the day, yes, there was an attempted removal of him through force. Army tanks were rolled in. But at the end of the day, there was an impeachment process which was being rolled, and we hear that he ended up resigning. So it's not out of imagination or reality that impeachment can still be a reality in the term of Emerson Mnangagwa. It can be a reality, withstanding the issue that ZANU-PF, I think, has a two-thirds majority now, and the Chabangu's opposition. But in politics, you should never count the loyalty of people at face value. Because in 2017, Mugabe thought that he had loyal people, but he ended up losing it. Fast take in 2025, you might see that Mnangagwa might not have people who are so loyal. So let me just, hand over the mic for now. Thank you so much.
But anyway, we know Comrade Geza said people must not go out from home. Cars must not move in Zimbabwe, and that happened. And that demonstration was correct. And now we are heading for the impeachment. And who is going to remove Mnangagwa are those people in ZANU-PF. They are going to vote in parliament, and we don't want this to extend until the end of this month, because the situation in Zimbabwe is now terrible. You in diaspora, you are okay. We are feeling the pains on the ground. So Tagwe is not going to in power. That for Shen is out of the question now. And President Chamisa will go there. So for now, we want children of Zimbabwe to be united and say we want the impeachment of Mnangagwa. And now it have been presented in Parliament. It have been presented, yes, today. The motion is now in motion, and it doesn't have to take time. And Mnangagwa have not to read because he's incapacitated. He cannot do anything on his own brains. He's not a president anymore. He's been a person who been used with the Takwire and that is scout and that other what do you call the donator of cars and on the benefit, on the disadvantage of Zimbabwe, on the benefit of their stomach, and that must stop. Zimbabwe is a nation which must donate to other nations, not for children of Zimbabwe. Go to England and enjoy life. Enjoy the suffering. They don't not enjoy life. They are working for their own survival. We want to build our own Zimbabwe. That's why we are outside of Zimbabwe, because in Zimbabwe there's nothing apart from Chikorokoza. How much money the GP the money which is coming from mining? 6% of all in the mining, the Makrokoza and the Mnangagwa, his children and his what they are taking money from the mines, from the gold and everything. How can our minerals now contribute 50% of the money that is entered by the nation of Zimbabwe? So we are saying this must stop, and the world have got to know there's no coup that was going to be. Mnangagwa is living power. You know, he's old and he's dying of natural death. But now we have got to prepare not for those who you think they manage the army because they were able to be clever and still enough to say they can pay you as a journalist or pay those people in parliament. You heard the child of Changirai saying that there's no parliament in Zimbabwe, there's no CC in Zimbabwe, there's no opposition in Zimbabwe. And that was the first you hosted just a few days ago. And you said, what are you paying for? They are saying, why did we put you? That was, we put that child who is representing Norton or whatever for a purpose, because of the honor of the father, because the father is our hero. Zimbabwe is going to be built again. Let's support each other. I don't want to speak anymore.
Tichienda panyaya yeimpeachment inini chandiri kukumbirawo semazimbabweans ndechekuti for patience, because the whole question atiri kubvunza kuti mastrategies akamira sei and so forth. I think if Geza akaburitsa information akanyanya kuwandisa stereke by informing us is also informing my enemies. Understanding as citizens, yes, we want the information, we want to have answers right away, but for Anaruma Barak, vanhu military trained, I think their way of working things out. Saka, as citizens, we need to do critical thinking to the aftermath, and so forth. But in doing so, let's be smart about it so that we don't demoralize our citizens in this movement. So yeah, that's my submission.
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Speaking about the impeachment draft, I think this is, in a way, for me, I think what is important is we must not miss these processes that are happening. I think they are bringing us closer to our systems of governance, what tools are available to us, and exactly how these things work, regardless of who we are coming after. I think there's a I don't know if it's a misconception or what, which says impeachment equals removal. I think when we hear the word impeachment, most of us we are looking at the end of it and not the process, and even not giving room for any other outcome except the removal. But it's a process. It's a tool that we have put in the Constitution. That is available to us, which we can exercise at any time should the person occupying those important seats, and it's not just the president, can then be brought to accountability through through such a tool. I've looked at the grounds of impeachment. I think it centers a lot on the president's being incapacitated by a medical condition, which has been stipulated in the document. I think it's bringing to a test a lot of things. Who is the rightful adjudicator on a case like that, where obviously there's scientific issues involved, issues that must be authenticated by those who are practicing medicine? Is it an ultimate thing that should the doctors find that is the case, then it equals removal, or we still have to go through a parliamentary process which involves the right committee picking up the matter, voting on it, and recommending it to the floor. Remember, there's a panel which must investigate all these things that have been put in place. Then there's a committee that is relevant, the relevant committee that should recommend a full impeachment proceedings before the legislative body, and that's both houses brought together for a vote. And then it's a court where we subject our elected officials and some of our officials that are in these high positions to the process of accountability. And how strong those institutions are only as strong as we are the people. And I think that's one of the issues that we are not addressing. And I heard the issue of money that already is in play. And I'm wearing a statement that I think, who was this guy who made this statement that, the difference between 2017 impeachment of our former president, Robert Mugabe, and today, or these impeachment proceedings, which have already, I think we have a draft, they haven't begun yet. The difference being that the funders were on the side of the impeachment process, or were on the side of those who brought up the impeachment. And by funders, we're talking of the Taquireis and all these other guys. So which brings another element or another component to the whole equation, which is money. Money, we know what it does to our people. We know what it does throughout the corridors of power. I mean, it's no secret, and this is one of the things that we've been yearning about. So I don't know, given all these things that are being brought in play, how far will these impeachment proceedings go, and how do we project them, and how do we see them playing out? Are we going to be successful? And remember also, impeachment proceedings like last time were used as a negotiating tool. Are they going to be that having that same effect? Then it brings into play a lot of things which perhaps do not align or do not seem to be aligning as yet as compared to 2017. 2017, I think by now we knew that the army was on which side. So there have been claims that have been made that have not been confirmed. And that's how politics plays out. Those things are never going to be confirmed until the last moment. So basically, it leaves us in a world of speculation. A lot of things are not yet aligning. We are not seeing the strength of the case, both in terms of the power matrix and obviously fueled also by money, like we are seeing in 2017. So we are sitting here trying to analyze, trying to see which way this thing is going to go. But remember, we are the people. We are the ones that instituted these proceedings as a way of holding power to account. And I think it's the first, or maybe it's the second time we are coming full swing into contact with that as well. So it's important for us to ensure that we understand the processes, and we see how best we can strengthen them outside the money, outside all these other tools that are available to people who are in the corridors of power. How do we strengthen our institutions, especially those that we use for holding power to account? Those questions, I think, are important. We need to be raising them. We need to continue, like you were saying, Geza, we need these spaces to continue ventilating those issues so that, at the end of the day, we come up with something, regardless of what political party you are coming from. This is a national conversation about our institutions, about our instruments of power, about the power matrix, how we should keep power in check. All these things, regardless of who occupies, whether it's today it's President Mnangagwa, tomorrow it's Chamisa, the Constitution has those provisions, and those provisions are blind to who occupies office, and they should remain blind. So we should have those intelligent conversations that are or that are above partisanship in terms of really strengthening our institutions and things like that. But from where I stand, I think there's still a lot of things that are not aligning in the way that 2017 aligned with a lot of other things to give us the outcome we had.
Pane mari yakati yakabiwa, pane zvakati zvakaitika, constitution yakazonzwai apa neapa, that we are not seeing in this document. We are just hearing kuti presidential scheme. What about presidential scheme? how much, what are the figures involved? We don't have those figures.
Mm.
So if they can beef up and add some references to the draft, then it will be strong and admissible in the court of law. That's what I'm just thinking.
Ndine one quick note pane nyaya yataurwa yekunzi we need to beef it up. So I went online because the president who remember akapedzisira kuimpeach was Donald Trump. In all those two, the articles, the first one is a 6-page document, the other one is a 3-page document. Then I don't think they would share all their annexures online. So probably they will submit annexures, but I just wanted to respond to probably it doesn't really need to be a very long document because andaona apa akaitwa Trump, the first one didn't go through, the other one I think went through.
Okay.
So I just wanted to raise that.
Because these are charges that are leveled against the president.
Yes. So
Saka then panozoenda through my committees manje apa ndo panenge pakuzoongororwa the evidence. That day
ane simba rekusamona president muparliament and the speaker of parliament ndianomusamona kuti uyashamari utaure upindure nyaya dzako idzi.
Because I remember Utizo parliament is a different branch altogether.
I pure instruction from the president. I understand.
No.
Yes, yeah.
The president is the executive. Parliament is another branch of the government, and then the judiciary. Saka pamba manje apa inenge ya game yakutambwa ne parliament. If it then requires the judiciary, it's another process manje inenge yakuzoitwa yakuitwa nenge brought in. Kana if Mnangagwa wants to have that side of the thing or of the of the government arm to come in, but again the parliament according to what is stipulated according kana paine schedules anotaura kuti an impeachment inoenda so
yes,
and which I think is already established.
Why I'm asking that? Sorry. Why I'm asking that? Remember, in Zimbabwe, we have one of the most powerful president, anema rights akanyanya kupfura president in the whole world. You know that? Constitution in Zimbabwe, masimba akatwa kuna president.
Okay. Can I help you on that one?
All right.
What you are made to believe is not true.
Is it?
We see a picture that the president of Zimbabwe has got powers, but in actual fact, he doesn't have powers. The people have got power through the MPs which are elected. That's why it has to go through parliament. And actually, the sequence of the things is when the MPs hear of the story, they're supposed to go to the areas, constituencies they represent, and consult with the people and come back to parliament, because the president has no power more than anyone else. Like you were asking Kuti, who can summon him to come? The parliament has got power to say, Mr. President, come here, we've got A, B, C, D that we want to ask about. There's some GOT scheme that we suppose that we hear is not going well. There are tenders like this. But in Zimbabwe, it's not happening. Why? Because people think that he is not touchable. No, but but it's not the case. That's not how it is supposed to be.
Now we grew up knowing what Mugabe hapana no mudze chokutaura because as far as we know Mugabe, but everyone reports to Mugabe. Even institutions that are not supposed to report to the president, one go report on the president because we had all this idea kuti just involve the president. So that's how we grew up in Zimbabwe. Let's be honest. There's never been such.
Repeated lies does not mean it's true. Repeated lies is not truth.
Right. I am opposed to impeachment, and I'm going to say this for these reasons. I think there are only 3 reasons. First reason, right, the argument that was being put forward by my fellow diplomats, my fellow progressive brothers and sisters, OT, Owen Chari, Wendas. I will mention these 3 because they are my close brothers, and they know that by mentioning the names, I'm not trying to belittle them, I'm not trying to attack them. But we are just discussing politics, how our views are a little bit on our divergent views, right? Their argument for supporting Geza was, let's deal with Mnangagwa because he's the most powerful guy in ZANU-PF, right? So they said, we are going to, once we have removed Mnangagwa, then we have a ZANU-PF that's somewhat weak. And I know Mkoma Tino, my brother Tino down there, he has moved that motion as well. Say, let's deal with Mnangagwa. Once we have removed Mnangagwa, ZANU-PF without Mnangagwa is a weak ZANU-PF, right? It's their point of argument. I did not agree with that argument, but that's okay, right? I understood where they were coming from because there is some there's some sense, a lot of logic in that, in as far as from a strategic point of view, right? So this was their view 2 days ago. Now they've made in about 10 to say we need to impeach Mnangagwa because of incapacitation. I'm like, how do you want to remove Mnangagwa? 2 days ago, you were saying he's the most powerful guy. Once we have removed him, things are going to be okay. It's better to deal with Chiwenga. Then 24 hours later or 48 hours later, that same guy is being accused of suffering from dementia. He's accused to be, he's not himself. He's being controlled virtually and remotely by the Maveteras and his girlfriends from CBMD and Borodale down there. Right. So I have a problem there to say, how are you guys? It's either you choose one side. Are you fighting Mnangagwa because you believe that is the most powerful guy, right? And if you are going to remove him, then you mean you have a ZANU-PF political party that's weak, or you just want to remove Mnangagwa because incapacitated. Because if someone is incapacitated, it means they're not effective, right? They are suffering from ED, just like what my brother Herbert has just confessed on a space to say, you know what, guys, I look back, my back used to be that. Right, but now that's what he said on the space. I'm just pulling your leg, Herbert, there, right? So that's Mnangagwa for you. So if he's incapacitated, if he cannot function, if he cannot carry himself around, yes, intoxicated or what, then guys, we cannot then turn on the other side and accuse Mnangagwa to be the most powerful guy, or to accuse Mnangagwa because of the faults or the problems that we are facing in Zimbabwe. But there has to be some power behind, and I know there's a counter argument. People will come through and say, no, there's a force. Mnangagwa, there are criminals around Mnangagwa, and we are targeting those criminals. And those criminals are now remote control. Right. Then I would ask and say, okay, so if you are going to remove someone who is being remote controlled, what guarantees do you have that those that were remotely controlling him are not going then to replace him according to our constitution? Because the constitution is very clear, right? If you impeach someone, then you are leaving everything to ZANU-PF to choose a replacement to finish off the term. And once they've finished off the term, then we can go back to the election, right? Which brings me to my second reason why I'm not in support of this impeachment, right? You are going to take it to Parliament. I liked my brother. There's a brother who was here, I think, and started with the seeds, who was asking questions. And the way he was asking questions, but these questions were kind of deliberate to say, okay, you said who is going to read this impeachment? And people were like, no, it's the Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament. Right, and Ango Gerard Vatipa, the state, how it functions, or the separation of duties to say, hey, we've got the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and all that. In an ideal setup or ideal country, that's what you would find. But for you guys to expect Mdenda who is not captured or remote controlled this time around by ZANU-PF, if you are going to believe that, then I will believe my brother Titus if he tells me that if you go to the avenues today or per touch line, you meet a prostitute who's still a virgin. Right? It's something that's very difficult to believe. Right? We know the Parliament is captured. They've demonstrated it through Chabangu. ZANU-PF has spent a lot of money just trying to capture the Parliament. And Mnangagwa has been the one in the forefront running with this. So having these guys, after they've invested all this, for you to just say, you know what, in Parliament, we need to move the motion without looking at the requirement to say, you need half of the parliamentarians to vote for this motion. And by half, what are we talking about? The lower house has got how many members? I think 300, right? 300 MPs there, members of parliament. Then the upper house, I think it has got something like 100. So that's like 300, right? So you need 50% plus one, which is maybe 151 MPs to vote in favor of the motion. And remember, when you vote in favor of the motion, it's not like the impeachment process is done in Parliament. You don't have to meet Mnangagwa outside Parliament. That process is done and Mnangagwa is gone. Now all his power has been removed and everything, right? You are going through the motion today. You are voting as 151 people. After that, you still meet Mnangagwa at the Jongwe or whatever, their headquarters at some point in time, whilst this process is taking its course. So if you could look at it realistically, my fellow brothers, and say, those MPs who are there in parliament on ZANU-PF, not just ZANU-PF, even our opposition, I would call them opposition MPs. And most of them, they know that they are never coming back in 2028. I can give the examples here, right? They know for sure that they are in this office, this is their last term. So when you see them siding with ZANU-PF, it makes a lot of economic sense to them. I put economic sense in quotes, right? It makes economic sense. What is it that you are going to say, Owen Chari, to these MPs? What is it that you are going to promise these MPs, right? That's going to sway them. That's going to sway them so that they don't risk their lives, they don't risk persecution from Mnangagwa, they don't risk persecution from those that are capturing Mnangagwa, Gananda et al. Right? What is it that you are going to offer them? Both opposition MPs and also ZANU-PF MPs, right? I'll be very much interested in knowing that, because principle alone is not good enough. Values alone cannot be good enough to convince our Zimbabweans. They have shown in the past that they don't stand for anything, right? In corruption, you find them there, bribes, and they don't lead by example. Why would you expect them at this juncture, at this point in time, to say, okay, you want you to vote, with us in a motion to remove Mnangagwa because we feel he's incapacitated, akazorotomoka kuti chi. Tell you what, guys, ZANU-PF MPs are better off dealing with Mnangagwa, who is incapacitated, who doesn't know what he's doing, than a young, vibrant, powerful, or president from ZANU-PF who is going to question them to say, hey, I need to look at your performance contract. How are you performing? Tatenda Matevera, do you think you are going to convince it to say, hey, Tatenda, you need to vote against your boss and the other guys who are not doing well? I think that's gonna be a mammoth task. Then the last point that I also wanted to mention is on ZANU-PF. My problem is ZANU-PF. So if you are going to have half-baked solutions to say, let's remove Mnangagwa, it will be difficult for us to stop this vicious cycle. The cycle where we'll have someone coming from ZANU-PF pacifying us, right? Takakura isusu pandakakura hangu ndatisina mapacifiers andakupawo vana vangu iko zvino. Indai pacify wane chigunwe. Handizivo imimi kuti maizvambisa sei. Kuti kana momzi vasipo ndikaisa chigunwe changu kana ndotofungidzira kuti ndikutoyamwa mukaka paya. But ndandiri kumedza mate angu. But for vana munesu iko zvino ndakamuitira pacifier. Akatorovawo pacifier. Momzi vaizodzoka kubasa aribo. We cannot have these guys where someone will come today and say we want to impeach, right? If they were going to say let's impeach ZANU-PF, I would support them, because you would expect on that document to include things like they rigged the election. So for that reason, and this was in complete violation of the constitution, and this can be corroborated and supported by the report from SADC. If they want witnesses to come through, right, we will have President Hichilema coming through to testify in our favor, and the guys who were responsible for the drafting of the preliminary report or the final report, yes, SADC. So you can have those people. But they can't say that because these guys are complicit. ZANU-PF people are complicit. They can't say that, right? So they will target Mnangagwa today. That's Geza. Geza will target Mnangagwa. After they've targeted Mnangagwa, they will replace Mnangagwa with someone who is resigned, tired, incapacitated again to lead us. Because why would you expect Mnangagwa to be better when your Chief Justice is over 70, is not doing anything? When the Army General who was appointed right now, the commander, right, over is 74, right? You look at him again, he's tired. So that's the trend that we have in Zimbabwe currently. So a solution that does not take ZANU-PF head on, a solution that is not going to remove ZANU-PF, I think it's half-baked. We're not going to achieve much with it. The last point. I know people will accuse me of saying, you are just saying these rhetorics, you are not providing solutions. The solution is, and I concur with my brother Owen Chari, we have power. The power is in the masses, in the people, right? In us, the citizens. We cannot expect anyone to come and save us. No. Let's organize ourselves as progressives. Let's put away our political jackets. I know what Herbert stands for because I've followed him for some time. I know what Ango Gerard stands for. I know what Titus stands for, right? Let's come together and say, guys, this is what is happening back home is not what we believe. It's not something that we stand for. So what can we do to make sure that we motivate ourselves? We protest against government, against ZANU-PF as a terrorist organization, as an organization that has run down our country, that has seen us to be in the sorry state that we find ourselves in. And once we have removed ZANU-PF, now we pave way for democratic processes to take place where we can have a leader who has a social contract with the masses, a leader who knows that the power resides with the people. If you don't perform, people are going to remove you. Problem we have in ZANU-PF is if you're going to remove through an impeachment today and you have a savior mentality, there's a main actor, it will be difficult for you to remove that main actor in 2028. Because actually, 2 terms. And the amamupa bonus, according to the constitution, right? Anotozanga kuti 2028 zvichienda. But no, zvikona that guys, tenge tiri pama 1. Let's fight to remove ZANU-PF. Otherwise, a beautiful space.